Hello everyone, I'm Rafael Alvarez and this is Alvarez Metalworks. So today what we have here, just like the video description said, is an upgrade kit from the Tacoma company for the 40-pound Harbor Freight glass cabinet so that you can change out the glass in the cabinet without having to reach inside. It's a quick change glass kit, I guess you can call it. I don't know the official name of it, but let me actually see if it says on the instructions. There we go. Glass cabinet window quick change kit. Okay, basically the problem with the glass cabinets is pretty simple. Okay, let me walk over here to mine and I'll show you. The stock setup basically just has a bunch of holes. You got bolts and nuts. Okay, you got your gasket there. You've got to reach in and hold the nuts and put the bolts in, which is fine when you're on this side, but when you get over there, you have to have arms that are like 4 or 5 feet long or be able to get somebody to climb inside this cabinet to reach over there and hold those while you're tightening them up, which is a real big pain in the butt, because if you're doing a lot of sandblasting, you're going to be changing out the glass in this thing quite often. So this kit is to remedy that situation and to make it much easier, and also to help prevent you from dropping the glass on the ground. Okay, so what we have here is a real simple setup. You'll have to drill some holes just so that you know. These are nutserts. If you don't know what nutserts are, they're a lot like rivets except for they're threaded on the inside. Okay, so you'll have to drill the holes out to accommodate the nutsert size, and we'll talk about that later. But basically you drop this into the hole, and this thing right here is actually a tool. They do sell nutsert tools if you just happen to have one, but you know, if you don't, they include this little tool here. You screw it down into the nutsert, and I'll show you how to use it later, but essentially what it does is it smashes this thing tight like a rivet, like I said, so that now instead of having a hole that you need to drop a bolt and then put a nut through, this is your nut and it's attached to the cabinet permanently. Okay, so that's that part. Now these little things here, these are tabs that you slide into place on the bottom side of the cabinet, or bottom side of the window opening, like so. And they, I'm not going to put it on all the way, and they keep the glass from sliding off onto the ground, because as you guys know, this is an angled surface, and although your first layer is up against this foam and it holds it pretty good, but your second layer is going to fall right on the damn ground and you're going to break it and you're not going to be happy, especially if you're trying to do Stretch Armstrong type deal and have one arm in there and one arm out trying to tighten stuff up, and things go wrong. So anyway, that's what those are. And then you just have these T-bolts basically, and that's what you tighten them up with. So in the end result, you're going to have something that looks like this. You got your black trim ring just like the stock one, and you got all these red T-bolts that you just unscrew them, swap everything out, and then put it all back together. Real plain and simple. Real easy kit to install. There's only a couple things that you really need to address and pay attention to, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But this is the install of that kit. Sit tight and we'll get it all put together. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you need to remove the glass and the frame. Okay, now what I'm going to mention right now is there's another video out where I talk about, in my videos, where I talk about upgrading the glass in general that comes with the cabinet. I'm just going to give a quick review of that, basically, or overview of that. Basically what you're doing, this cabinet comes with a double strength glass, some plastic tear-offs, and a sheet of plexiglass. Okay, it's like 1/8 plexiglass. That plexiglass from the factory is supposed to be at the top layer of your stack of glass. The double strength actual glass piece is supposed to be below the plexiglass, and that has the tear-offs. The plexiglass is there simply for, that's their way of covering their butts with safety, because it's not a tempered glass. So they put the plexiglass there just in case something happens where the glass blows up, breaks, whatever. The plexiglass will help retain it versus having it fly apart and big shards. So that plexiglass is not meant to be the disposable bottom piece. Now, with that being said, I'm going to highly suggest that you guys toss that piece of plexiglass out. The reason being is that it's plastic, and plastic creates, plastic and the blast cabinet together will create static. And then what you're dealing with is all the dust wanting to cling to the glass. And then you got visibility issues, which is counterproductive. So what I'm going to suggest is you guys go down to Lowe's, and I'm saying Lowe's specifically because I know that they offer free glass cutting, and they have single strength glass, which is what you would use for like picture frames. You can get a sheet of 24 by 36 and have them cut it into 3 pieces, which these are 24 across by 12. So you'll get 3 equal pieces, and you'll use that single strength glass as a disposable, as the disposable glass. You'll use that as the bottom layer, and then you'll put the double strength glass that came with the cabinet, which is thicker, on top. Okay, I've already done this, and like I said, if you want to search my videos, you can. Basically, that's the gist of it. Okay, that double strength glass or that single strength glass from Lowe's, you can get it for, I think it's like, it was just under $14 for the 24 by 36. So just under $14, and you get 3 sheets of it, 3 replacements, which is really good because the visibility is substantially better than using plexiglass and those plastic tear-offs. So anyways, first step is to install these. What these are, like I showed you in the intro, is just to keep the glass from sliding off this angle. Real simple to install. You don't really have to even get too scientific here with the measurements. I'm just going to center between these 2 bolt holes, and they clip onto the metal like so, and that's done. Okay, I'm going to take the other one. I'm going to do the same over here. And just like that, it's done. And what that's going to do is when it comes time to change this glass, you don't have to worry about it falling off the cabinet. Once you remove that trim ring, it'll hold both pieces of glass in there just fine. You can do this all by yourself. So, next step is going to be installing the nutserts. Okay? Obviously, these holes are too small for the nutserts, so we need to drill those out. You're going to be using a drill bit that is 17/64. That's the proper size drill bit for those nutserts. So let me get the drill set up, and I'll be right back. So here we are in front of the blast cabinet. We're getting ready to install the nutserts, but we have to deal with an issue. Okay. For those of you guys who have already assembled your cabinets already, and you're just putting the quick change glass kit on your cabinet, you'll know that the black plastic ring that holds the glass in place does not line up properly with the bolt holes that are in the sheet metal. This is not because it was designed improperly, I guess you could say. When this was all set up and it was all CNC done, all the holes were CNC punched, everything should theoretically line up properly. The problem is the plastic ring. Plastic ring is injected molded plastic, and anybody who's ever melted down anything that's a solid into a liquid state and then cooled it knows that it shrinks. Well, plastic does the same thing. So when they molded these things, they were in theory lined up exactly where they needed to be, and when they cooled off, it shrunk, and now the holes don't quite line up. So we need to deal with that problem. The reason why we need to deal with that problem is that the nutserts need to go in here, some of these holes are really far off, and if we just drill these holes and put the nutserts in there, you're going to have issues getting your T-bolts lined up, and you're going to really struggle with it. So we need to recenter these holes as best as possible to line up with the plastic molding. Now, one thing that I want to say is that you need to keep the orientation, you need to know what side is up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and put it on the inside of the cabinet. And this is by the recommendation of Mike over at the Tacoma Company. We're going to put this behind the sheet metal, and we're going to line up the holes as best as possible. Okay? Now I've got this hole lined up, and I'm looking around at all the others, and none of the others line up. You know, this one's pretty close, but that's it. So what I want to say is something that will hopefully make sense to all of you guys. I know in theory you may say, okay, well, let me go for the best number of holes lined up, and if you have holes that line up that are directly across from each other, that's a great idea. In my particular situation, the only holes that line up are holes that are right next to each other. So like here in the center, I can get these two holes to line up well with each other, but nothing else does. The problem with that is when I look at the top holes, I'm very far off, and you know, in relation to being centered top to bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use clamps instead of, and Mike's idea is to put bolts through here, the original factory bolts, and use those to hold it in place while you recenter all of these holes. And so that you can mark which ones need to go which direction, so on and so forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to center the ring, okay? I'm going to make sure that I know these two holes are lined up, and then I'm going to move it forward towards the top of the cabinet so that I can get a center point between these top holes being aligned and the bottom holes being aligned. Okay, and what that's also going to do is it's going to give me a good center left to right as well. I'm going to clamp that in place, and then I'm going to take this tool that I got right here. This is what we call a chainsaw file. I picked this up from Harbor Freight. Yes, Harbor Freight special. It's not very expensive. Comes in a pack of 3. There's 3 different sizes: 5/32, 7/32, and 3/16. The 5/32, the small one, is the one I'm going to use. The reason I'm going to use that is because it fits in the plastic hole without you know, a tight fit, and it fits in these holes without it being a tight fit. So now at this point, I'm going to know, you know, this is all clamped into place. I have a good idea of where the holes need to be adjusted to get them to recenter. I'm going to take my chainsaw file and I'm going to start filing these holes in the direction that they need to move to get them to recenter. Okay? I'm going to try to keep them round. I'm not going to try to make like a football shape out of it. I'm going to try to keep them round. But one thing that I need to talk about is this. This is the nutsert. Okay, the nutsert that is supplied with this kit requires a 17/64 drill bit. Now, if you've never installed these things before, it is very important that that hole is no bigger than the required hole. Okay, the reason being is these work off of friction. They get pressed down in there, and then they're compressed like a rivet, and then they hold on to the edge of that metal. Okay. And that's what keeps them from spinning. If you look at the nutsert, there's, you know, I don't know what you want to call those, the little grooves in here. Those bite into the metal and keep it from spinning. Now, if the hole's too big, it's never going to bite into anything because it's not touching it. So it's very important that you do not make those holes any bigger than 17/64. What I suggest is keeping one of these in your hand, and while you're sitting here filing out these holes, you know, come back in here and make sure that the nutsert actually, you know, is still, or the hole's small enough where the nutsert doesn't go in there. Okay, so if we can get all these holes lined up centered and still be smaller than the nutsert, we're in really good shape, because then we can take the 17/64 drill bit and drop the drill bit through all the holes. You know, or we could just continue to open it up with the file, whatever suits your needs. I mean, you guys have the tools that you need in your shop, or that you have access to be able to accomplish this job. And I think you get the idea of what we're trying to do here. What I will say is this: in a worst case scenario, it is better to have to. It's better to make sure your holes are no bigger than the nutsert than it is, you know, and where you would have to go in here to the plastic and kind of wallow this out, than it is for you to have those holes too big and then your nutserts don't work, because then you're dealing with a whole other headache, a whole other problem, because now you need to figure out how am I going to keep those nutserts from spinning. You know, it turns into a headache. So make sure it is the utmost important that your nutserts, the holes that the nutserts go into, are not larger than 17/64. So ideally you would not want to open up the plastic if you can avoid it. The reason being is that you have your T-bolts. If you put them in to the holes, there's just enough friction on there where you can flip this upside down and they don't fall out. So that's kind of an added bonus for, you know, when you're changing this, so that you could just twist these out, take it off, and you're okay, everyone. Got all the holes all lined up. You see, I got the nutserts just sitting in these holes here. They just literally, the hole's big enough. You just take it and you put it in the hole. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how to actually install them. And what we have here is a tool that the Tacoma company supplied. Sorry if I'm losing focus. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in on this and the camera's trying to lose focus on me. This is the tool they supplied, which is a very basic setup to install nutserts. You can actually get a nutsert tool, which is like a pair of pliers type deal. It's expensive. This actually will suit your needs, but if you think these nutserts are kind of a cool item and you think that you could use them for other projects, then you probably want to go out and actually buy a nutsert installation tool. Anyway, the way this works is you got that sleeve. The bolt is basically screwing into the nutsert, and then because it's sleeved, what it's doing is it's compressing the nutsert. It's smashing it like a rivet. Okay. Once I'm done installing this particular one, I'll show you from the bottom side how that looks on the inside of the cabinet, so you can get a better idea of how nutserts actually function. Okay. The sleeve you're going to want to grab with a pair of vice grips or a pair of pliers. My vice grips are not here in the shop, unfortunately. They're at work. So I'm just going to grab it with a pair of channel locks and hold on to it tight while I crank down this nut. So that being said, we're going to take this and we're going to drop it down into that nutsert. Bear with me, I'm trying to juggle things around in my pocket. Screw it in, and it should go in real easy. Okay, I'm just holding the nutsert from the bottom side to make sure it's snug. I'm going to grab my pliers, and I'm going to grab the supplied Allen wrench that comes with this kit. Okay, now make sure you're in focus. I'm going to grab this with the pliers, and I'm going to make sure that it's sitting down flat. Okay, that's very important. And then I'm going to put the Allen in, and I'm going to start tightening it. So if I lose focus on you guys, I apologize, but it's very important that that thing stays flat. Okay, so you're just tightening this down. Readjust my pliers. Tightening it until it firms up. Okay, you'll feel it. It's obviously firm to begin with, but it's going to get to a point where it gets tight, and that's because the nutsert is fully collapsed. You don't want to crank it past that because you don't want to break the bolt off inside of it. You don't want to ruin anything. You just want to get it to where it's firm. Right there it is. And then you're done. Okay, now to get this out, you just back out the bolt. Now this sleeve is pressed into that nutsert, okay? The little brass part of it. So we're gonna back out the bolt until it's loose. And we're just gonna grab a hold of it and pry it out, okay? What I was saying that it's pressed into it, that little brass sleeve or whatever that is, what that is it keeps the center of the nutsert from distorting, so that, you know, once it collapses that you still be able to get your bolt in. So now let me just toss in the plastic ring right now, just so you guys can get an idea of how this is supposed to line up and how this is supposed to work. I don't obviously have the glass in place, right? That's fine. This is just for demonstration purposes. Now, this should go in just that simply, okay? You shouldn't have to fight with it. It should just go right in and snug it down, not tight, just like that. And then you're done, okay? So I'm gonna get to installing all the rest of the nutserts, and I'll get the glass put in, and then I will show you guys what it looks like when it's all wrapped up. But real quick, as I promised, I'll show you what that nutsert looks like from the inside, if I can get some decent lighting. Where is it? There we go. You see there? It just basically smashed it. Okay? All your threads are still in the nutsert, everything's like that, just smashes it. And those teeth that they have in the nutsert itself, they grab a hold of the metal and keep it from spinning. But that's why it's very important to make sure that those holes are not too big. So anyway, I'll be right back. Okay, so they're all in there tight. I've got my single strength glass that I picked up from Lowe's. Putting that in, see how the tabs hold it? You don't have to worry about it sliding onto the floor. Now I got my double strength glass that came with the glass cabinet. Okay, so I'm just making sure that everything lines up. Now, with the plastic ring, when we marked everything out, we had a certain side up, so make sure that that side is still up. Maybe paint a little arrow on it or something like that, something for reference, so that you could always put it right back where it goes. You know, and this is as simple as lining up your T-bolts. Make sure you do not cross thread them. You'll hate life if you do. So, I didn't want to show you guys the boringness of whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to show you guys my fat fingers screwing in all of these things. Takes up too much time. That being said, what I basically want to tell you is that install all of them, just get them threaded, okay? Don't go and wrench them down, just get them threaded. The plastic moves a little bit. Your holes may not be perfectly lined up. Get them all threaded so that you can wiggle the frame around and get it positioned better, and then go ahead and tighten them up. As long as you did a decent job as far as trying to get the holes lined up, you should be in pretty good shape. So that being said, this is an awesome kit for this cabinet. It's a definite upgrade that I would highly recommend to everybody. You're gonna need to change out this glass, okay? It's absolutely gonna happen. There's aspects of sandblasting in a glass cabinet that is gonna require you to remove this glass outside of the fact that you need to replace it. Gloves. Stock glove that I can't pull into the picture. This is already torn on me. I've used this cabinet for maybe about an hour and a half in its stock form, and the glove is already in this area ripped. Both of them actually have. So I've got some upgraded gloves coming in from the Tacoma company as well. We'll be installing those in a future video, but when it comes time to install those, you're really going to want the glass out. Sure, you could probably reach in through the door, but you know, I'm fat, you know. And I don't feel like buttering myself up and sliding inside of this cabinet and then hoping that I can breathe, much less put the gloves on the rings. So taking the window out will allow me to be able to go in there and install the gloves on the rings easily and deal with that. And now I don't need anybody to help me, because there's no way that I could take out this glass without help. Not in its stock form. So this kit really is tremendously helpful in regards to maintenance and the upkeep of your cabinet. So with that being said, give Mike a call over at the Tacoma company. He'll be glad to speak with you. I'm sure all of you are sitting here wondering, how much does it cost? Give Mike a call. He'll talk to you about price. You know, there's shipping and stuff like that. I'm not sure all the details on those. He did send this kit out to me to install on my cabinet. I did not pay for this glass kit, but I'm not hyping up something that's a bad product. This is a legitimately good product. I wouldn't be telling you guys that if I didn't really truly believe it. It's a good product. It takes a little bit of time to get all those holes lined up. I ended up using the chainsaw file for all of it. I didn't use a drill bit whatsoever. So that's what I recommend. It's quicker, it's easier. You don't risk taking the hole out too far and then screwing it up and then having to deal with issues with the nutserts not fitting and so on and so forth. So that's what I would recommend. Mike at the Tacoma company also recommends using the chainsaw files. With that being said, that's pretty much it. Stay tuned. I've got a lighting kit to install on this that is going to be leaps and bounds better than the factory lighting setup that is in this cabinet. Okay, we'll talk about the different lighting options, why some are good, why some are bad, and we'll go over all of that stuff. We're also going to be talking about, in another video, once I actually get this cabinet up and running with its modified form, we're going to be talking about air compressor requirements and what you need to be concerned about and all those details. That is an absolute must-watch video. So we'll talk about all of that stuff. So there's going to be at least 3 more videos, actually 4, because there's going to be a comparison before and after video for you guys to watch. I know I've got some other stuff coming from the Tacoma company as well. So stay tuned. Just remember to subscribe, comment below if you have any questions, like the video, share the video. Also, remember to check out roarksupply.com. That's my thank you to you guys for supporting my channel and supporting me. It's also Roark Supply's thank you to you for supporting my channel as well. Use coupon code METAL, get 10% off anything that you order from them. Okay? So, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later.